It is my honor to have someone join us today who will be speaking to us from a place where she and her organization are intentionally focused on our strategic objectives. We are trying to align that work. You heard me talk about that in a powerful way, and our observances are a huge part of that. Throughout the year, we will invite speakers who not only will be able to share their experiences and their work, but they will actually be able to show us what's possible in our affiliates, both our states and our locals all throughout this nation. Today, we're actually going to hear from a partner who has centered their work at the local level and is working deeply with our local affiliate in Wisconsin, the MTEA, the Milwaukee Teachers Education Association. They are working directly with the union, and they are providing direct support to our students. So MTA got a CAPE grant, and they have used their CAPE grant to partner with Voces de la Frontera. Over the years, actually, in advocacy and leadership programs that are designed to do outreach to our Latino and immigrant high school students. MTA has helped to work with and lead the work of what's called the Youth Empowered for Students, or YES, who have been just a powerful force, especially in helping to get out the vote in an effort that helped to pass an $87 million referendum to support our public schools in Milwaukee and to elect Jo Costas Zamarripa, Milwaukee's first Latina and first openly bisexual alderman. I am so excited for you to hear from our speaker. It's just another example of that dynamic alignment that I was talking about with our affiliates and our partners. We have with us this evening the chair of our NEA Hispanic Caucus, Ms. Gladys Marquez, to introduce our Hispanic Observance speaker. Gladys?
Thank you, Madam President, for the kind introduction and for continuing to invest in these racial and social justice board observances. Muy buenas tardes, hermanos y hermanas. Como siempre, es un honor estar aquí frente a ustedes. Good afternoon. It is always an honor to stand before you, my friends. For those new to the board, these observances are an essential component of Super Week. They help us advance our organizational work in our fight for racial and social justice by creating a common space that informs our leaders about the amazing work that has been done by some of our nation's most committed and dedicated advocates, activists, and leaders. We're 1 week into Hispanic Heritage Month, a month that spans from September 15th to October 15th. A month that has historically been a space for us to celebrate iconic Hispanic figures and their contributions to our great country. Leaders who, even in the wake of this nation's most oppressive president, have committed their time and energy to protect and defend labor, their local communities, and our democracy. You see, in the era of Trump, these celebrations are bittersweet. The trauma inflicted on Black and Brown communities is exponential, and the racism and hate our communities endure is palpable. Latino communities grapple with the harsh reality that even after countless protests and organizing initiatives, we still have immigrant children in cages, that refugee families continue to be separated, and unaccompanied minors have been lost in transition. Thousands have gone missing, never to be seen again. And most recently, the reports of migrant women in detention centers who are being forcefully subjected to non-consensual hysterectomies that will no doubt cause a lifetime of trauma. This president has normalized hate and brought the oppression felt by our communities to the forefront for everyone to see. This pandemic has laid bare the social inequities our communities experience. It is compounded trauma endured, even as we continue to collectively mourn the loss of missing and murdered Indigenous women, as we collectively demand that Black lives matter, and fight to dispel the model minority myth and violence against Asian and Pacific Islander brothers and sisters on the heels of the COVID pandemic and the racist rhetoric of a grossly unqualified president. It is our organizational responsibility to get a new president and rebuild our democracy. These observances are essential because they re-energize us and give us the why behind our collective action and heighten our awareness about what we can and must do at the grassroots level by providing valuable insight into the work that leaders such as Cristina Neumann-Ortiz and Voces de la Frontera are doing to provide much needed support for organized labor and the immigrant communities they serve. Cristina was honored with the NEA Human and Civil Rights Cesar Chavez Acción y Compromiso Award. She is our ally in our amazing work through the NEA CAPE grant. Her work continues to inspire all of us. Please join me in giving a warm NEA welcome to Christine Neumann-Ortiz.
Thank you so much, Gladys. We are going to roll a video. Roll the video, please.
This is Christine Neumann-Ortiz. I'm the co-founder and executive director of Voces de la Frontera in Wisconsin and our youth arm, Youth Empowered in the Struggle. And it is with great honor that we receive this Cesar Chavez Award from the NEA. It is an honor because Voces de la Frontera from its inception has been arm in arm with teachers in the struggle because teachers care about their students, they care about the families of the students, and as such have been in the front lines with Voces in the struggle for in-state tuition in Wisconsin, the DREAM Act, driver's licenses, just immigration reform, every step of the way. In turn, Voces has marched and fought for the right of teachers to maintain their rights on the job. Their rights impact the educational quality of students. We've also fought for school funding referendums by mobilizing the vote, most recently in 2020. And this truly embodies the honor of the Cesar Chavez Award, which is both a labor movement and a broader social justice movement. So it is with great honor on behalf of our members that we accept this award and continue to link arms in the struggle. Si se puede.
Thank you. Let us hear from our phenomenal speaker. Christine?
Oh, good afternoon, everyone. It is truly an honor to be here. Just want to make sure everyone can hear me okay. Yes?
We can.
Okay, great. And I know that the time is limited here. And I wanted to really share with you a little bit about, as you said at the beginning, how Voces has partnered with MTEA and REA over the years, particularly through our youth arm, I would say, and then integrated into the organization. And then how have we worked together organizationally? Because it is unique and powerful way, and it's a good model. And then lastly, just to give you an update from Wisconsin, how we are organizing, especially through the elections in this pandemic. And a little bit about myself. I'm the co-founder and executive director of Voces de la Frontera and Voces de la Frontera Action. Voces de la Frontera Action is our C4 arm that allows us to be able to endorse candidates, not based on a party, but on their platform on immigration, worker rights, and education, especially public education. And we have just recently endorsed Biden and Harris for the presidential ticket, and are organizing Latino, multiracial youth, and pro-immigrant rural voters in Wisconsin right now. Our youth arm, Youth Empowered in the Struggle, is a multiracial youth arm that was started in Racine, and it's based in different school chapters. And we have primarily chapters in high schools in Milwaukee and in Racine. And now, as those students have graduated, they've started college chapters. I myself am the daughter of teachers. Both my parents are retired teachers, and both my parents are immigrants. My mom is originally from Mexico. My dad is from Germany. They met in Mexico, fell in love, moved to the United States. And it's a multiracial couple. Actually, when they were married, they moved to California. And at that time, it was the only state in the country that allowed for multiracial marriage. And my mom, from an early age in particular, really instilled in me a great sense of pride in our ethnic heritage, and just the responsibility that to stand up for justice, and to have a real sense of community. And so I'm really, grateful for that, for both of them, but she was always very explicit about it. And Voces started, I went to school in Austin, Texas to study Chicano history. We kind of got exposed to student activism when I was a student in Madison, and then went to study Chicano history. And it's really there where Voces started. I had the opportunity to travel the border and see how workers in the maquiladora, these multinational manufacturing companies, how they were organizing. And it became the inspiration to start a worker center here in Wisconsin when I came back. And the organization has really grown bottom up. Voces is well known, I'd say, both in the labor, but certainly in the immigrant rights movement, for its capacity to organize at a mass scale, especially with these statewide general strikes known as A Day Without Latinx and Immigrants, where tens of thousands of people have gone out, especially workers, very bravely not going to work, to be able to fight around immigration rights very successfully. And so that's something that that power and that ability to do that, not just once, but several times, that capacity is really rooted in our ability to, that we are an organization that has always been bottom up. And our ability, I would say too, of what is our understanding of power and how we thus use our power, and understanding what you're up against, what power you do have. And that is both not just community, but also labor power. We've always had that understanding, and that immigration, the issue that is really very, very much a part of our struggle, is tied to a broader labor struggle, international labor struggle. So we've always had that understanding, which has been key to this relationship with teachers and broader labor movement in general, and other folks, that understanding that class and oppression connect, and our willingness to really adapt to the situation, to be responsive, to be very democratic in our decisions as we move forward, and to really build out alliances, to really think about both organization, but movement power, and know that this struggle is a struggle beyond our lifetimes, that you don't just think about short term. I used to think we're going to win immigration reform in 1 year. It's been 20 years now, and I still believe we're going to win immigration reform. But it's a movement. It's a movement. It means we're closer to it in some ways than ever before. But these elections are critical in which direction we'll go. But in that time, in the course of that time, there has been greater and greater solidarity and connection, not just within the Latino and immigrant community, but beyond it, in linking these struggles. And that's the power, and that's the power that we're seeing on the streets nowadays with the Black Lives Matter movement. And so going back to the history of Voces and MTEA and Teachers Union in general, one of the things that I think is very powerful, beyond the ideology, was the seed of it was really planted, because we had, as an organization, as we were growing, we were bringing in people in the community who had a long history there, were trusted, and especially in this case, in our case, in the Latino community. And so when we made the decision, as when we were part of the National Immigrant Freedom Rides, Mark, we connected with some teachers and and then that really kind of was the seed of, like, let's build a student chapter in the schools. But it wouldn't have happened if we didn't have that community connection. So this kind of institutionalized structure, sometimes institutionalized and sometimes not, yes, chapters, youth empowered in the struggle chapters, if we wouldn't have had that community trust, so that parents felt like, okay, this is okay for my kids to participate in. So I think that was really essential. And also, working with the administration, because there was immediate benefits to this work that we were doing, which really had a social justice orientation. And because it transforms people, and that's the biggest part of what we're doing when we talk about movement building. It's really about transforming people too. Originally we started with just a Latino immigrant youth arm, but it quickly became a multiracial arm. It was originally Students United in the Struggle, and it changed to Youth Empowered in the Struggle, because there was a clear understanding that from the youth themselves that we share common struggles. And we were also very intentional as a largely Latino immigrant rights organization to recognize that we had to also be very intentional about lifting up broader struggles and other spaces for leadership. So our Black youth were very critical in, for example, winning Martin Luther King Day as a holiday in the Racine school district, throughout in Milwaukee and Racine, in our public school fights, building chapters that address conditions, empower students to have a voice, so that they are, this isn't just an alienating experience. School is not something imposed on you, but it is actually a space where you can have fun, but and you can shape what happens there. You can have a voice in what happens there. And the referendums, we have every referendum that our youth have been led on around public school funding referendum, we have won. And that the power of that, part of that whole process of how we've approached it has been one of building power in students. So identifying those leaders that we work with year round to then receive like a stipend, to be able to get trained up, to formally recruit and talk to their volunteers to do these like mass GOTV operations, and in their schools, in their neighborhoods, and as well as, especially now in this time when privatization, and it's a problem everywhere, but in Wisconsin and in Milwaukee in particular, privatization has been aggressive, very, very aggressive. And so we as an organization, recognizing that, have also, really kind of doubled down on that, on the importance of defending the public schools and putting our organizing energy even more so into that. And I think when we talk about the movement building, I can't help but reflect on Act 10, which was prior to Act 10, there was our experience up to that point had been where you had teachers who had been supporting the students and their families around the fight for in-state tuition, the fight for DREAM Act, the fight for driver's license, all these broader struggles that they could see and understand and support. Post Act 10, or in the fight for Act 10, Voces made a decision, Voces and our youth arm, that we mobilized for 2 weeks in that uprising that occurred, the state capitol takeover, when collective bargaining rights were being taken away from public employees in Wisconsin. And so it was a situation where suddenly you had teachers who had prior, obviously been very respected individuals in society, suddenly vilified, and they're the greedy ones, they're the problem. And so that targeting that is so constant for immigrants was suddenly being shifted to this group of workers, which is teachers, and the divisiveness was powerful. As we know, it's a powerful thing, sadly. And we were in that process able to come to their defense, who for so long had showed up in our defense, and it was very powerful and beautiful. And that's the strength of the movement building. Some of the public employee unions, SEIU, AFT, really were intentional about, during that whole uprising, creating space for us as an organization to speak out, to make that connection. And that connection was made thanks to that moment where there was that intentionality to like link struggles. And we've come out of it stronger. Most recently, it was referenced, we have been under this pandemic, continued to organize. The one thing that I'll say about maybe just organizationally breaking it down is that we have student chapters, and in those student chapters, we have elected leaders onto our statewide board. So our board has teacher advisors that are elected. They also have yes representatives from the different chapters, and every week those leaders from the different chapters in each city get together to share, integrate the campaigns we're doing, lead their own work that might be school based, or integrate these larger struggles into their school. For a support structure, we have a yes intern. It's like a pipeline of like developing your organizing skills. So we take young youth into this like internship. They often become organizers for yes, and now for the first time this year, we have a yes statewide organizer. And I'm happy to say that, a number of those yes youth leaders are now like yes MPS, work at MPS, are teaching our bilingual teachers, and they're active in the union. So it's really created this beautiful pipeline of experienced organizers who started at a very young age organizing in their schools, and having that connection, not just the schools, but the immigration fight and racial justice fight being very much embraced as part of it. We also organize the Freedom Schools, which is one a summer, because we are so active. It's a beautiful curriculum, obviously modeled after the civil rights movement, Freedom Schools, but it really gives an opportunity to reflect on the history of the different movements, women's rights, Black civil rights, voting rights, all of that stuff, and as well as developing their skills and their plan for how they're going to organize and build their chapter in their school. We have a beautiful art affiliate group, Voces de los Artistas, which has a number of art teachers in it. It's broader, but that has also produced a beautiful social justice art. The role of the teacher advisors, I think, is very important, because it's not to, it is an organizing role in the sense that you are there to empower others, that you create the space, to really for youth to find their own voice, to understand the structures that are there, to make their own decisions about, coursing that struggle. So for example, after the Trump administration came in, we all know that one of the places where the trauma was felt was in the schools, when you saw the bullying and the blatant racism, out in force, because it was okay now. It was okay to be openly racist, and people were emboldened by that. And as a result of that, and right off the mark, Trump and the administration he put in place has been a threat to civil rights, to human rights, especially in the efforts to try to convert schools, local government, police into legally profile and into an arm of immigration enforcement. So to give you an example, in the anti-sanctuary policy, Milwaukee Public Schools was, of course, is the largest and most diverse school district in the state of Wisconsin. And we were able to win that. Again, it was youth-led, teacher advisors supported, and a very important victory where families and students felt loved and protected at a very important time where they're definitely being threatened. And most recently in the school funding fight. Right in the entrance, there was a mention of the successful yes to NPS referendum fight. This was a critical fight. It was a coalition fight. The youth played a critical role in that. And in Racine, we did likewise with students phone banking for a similar referendum, 1 billion referendum for crumbling infrastructure. And that referendum won by 4 votes. So it all matters. It all matters. And when we talk about this voting block that was mentioned at the beginning, I just want to maybe shift to Wisconsin, because sometimes people think of Wisconsin and don't think of Latinos as critical to the deciding this election. And again, it's important for people to know that Latinos, especially here in Wisconsin, because the margins are so small, they're less than 1%, are critical because there are such large numbers of new and infrequent voters. And what's been different about our approach than in the previous past that we saw produce results 2020 and 2018 with the removal of Walker and bringing in Governor Tony Evers and Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes, a sweep on the statewide level through Voces de la Frontera Action, our C4 arm. That's how we can participate. But it is a different approach. The approach that we have been building out is called relational organizing, and it's been focused on building a network of voters through people we call voceros, and voceros are our members who could be a DACA recipient, could be an undocumented parent, could be a 16-year-old U.S. citizen in a high school who hasn't come of age to vote yet, lawful permanent resident. So it could be, but do you have family, friends, neighbors, coworkers, people who you can talk to and get them to join this network to be able to take your values to the polls and to help them, because many people are not connected. The very people we're organizing are not connected and need help, especially with all these bureaucracy that's been created to discourage people from participating, and especially with what we anticipate as being an escalated campaign of misinformation. So our goal for 2020 is to have 23,000 Latinx, multiracial youth, and pro-immigrant rural voters turn out for the elections. As of today, we are 7,500 voters short of that. So we are working hard to make sure that we reach that goal. And as we are moving forward, because elections are happening right now, people can request their ballots right now and vote right now. We are in the real-time process of doing that with our goal of getting a majority of those people registered and requesting their ballot. So I guess I'll leave it there. 23,000, by the way, if you don't know, is the margin of victory of which Trump took Wisconsin. And again, that was not because there was a surge of support for him. It's because Latinx, Black, and youth voters did not turn out. And what I will say is different about these times is that there is this, I think under the Trump administration, we have seen a surge of movement, whether that's third wave of feminist movement, Black Lives Matter movement, continuation, the ongoing immigrant rights movement, the labor movement, all of those things have been strong and have been under attack, the LGBTQ movement. And, but there's also been this rich history of people linking struggles. So with the numbers on our side, 23,000 young Latino voters will turn 18 and be eligible to vote in November. So that's just one segment. That's how powerful that voting bloc is. And that doesn't even include the new and infrequent Latino voters that we're engaging. So, and that's just one piece, but each piece has to be organized. So we're organizing really hard. And I guess I just want to thank NEA because for having that vision of linking labor and civil rights. They go together. It's about human rights, but they definitely go together because labor can't progress if it's being held down through policies that promote division and hatred between us. And you've had that vision. You've got great leadership. I just want to give a shout out to the Cape folks and to the union folks, you know, at the local level. And it's you have put us in a position to deliver Wisconsin, and it's because you believe in building movement, building community 365 days of the year, and we're stronger for it. So thank you.
Oh. Oh my goodness, Christine, I cannot thank you enough for sharing time with us today. Not only, we agree with you that this is a movement that we're closer to than we ever have been before. So not only did you demonstrate that in the words that you shared, the work that you've done, but also in really laying out that roadmap of how we partner and collaborate with our communities, with organizations who are all aligned around justice. Justice for our students, racial and social justice, worker justice, economic justice, all of those things showed up in what you shared with us. And I have no doubt, with a powerful leader like you, you will deliver Wisconsin. Thank you so very much, and I want to congratulate you again on winning a prestigious NEA ACR award. Thank you, Gladys, for that introduction and for those powerful words from a powerful activist. Board members, yet another reason why we must stay focused and we must win.